All right, I am live. Good morning. Special edition, early morning edition of Vlog Thursday. Things have been really busy, really hectic. So I decided to do the vlog early because I get here generally at about 7 a.m. and I have a lot to do. The last couple days have been overly hectic. I don't know how many of you are awake this early. So I'm at least going to, like I said, get a Vlog Thursday out before the day goes to chaos. The next few days, I'm going to be too busy to post anything on YouTube based on the projects we have going. So I figured I'd do something a little different and say, hey, here's something in the morning for those people on probably the other side of the planet where it's a little bit different. So 4:30 in CA, awesome. Rob, you get up early. That's pretty cool. We've it's one of those things where in the IT business, occasionally you just have a whole lot going on, and that is definitely what has occurred as of the last few days. Everything that we thought was going to maybe happen with a bid decided to happen. So it's been a good thing, but it's also been one of those things like I haven't had time. Corey's been knocking out a bunch of projects, on-site projects. I've had time to film none of them because I've been working on so many different projects and things like that. But that's a good thing. It's all positive stuff. So it just unfortunately takes me away from getting other things done, and that's life. I really love YouTube, and I love getting on here. And unfortunately, the places I was the last few days, I could not film anything. So because I could film nothing, there's a lack of content that was on there. One of the things I did, and I do some one-off type stuff. One of my friends is pitching for Shark Tank, so that's really exciting. Turns out, when you're doing that, when you were pitching for Shark Tank, they only give you, from the time they say you're approved, a couple days to produce that little video you see where you produce it at the person's business. And because they know me and my LTS Creative and we have cameras and everything, we worked with them, and it took an entire day of hanging out. Probably shouldn't have, but it was fun. We hung out for an entire day, putting it all together so they have their video for Shark Tank to pitch their business. If it gets pitched and everything goes well and it does end up on TV, I can't talk about any of the details. I signed paperwork for all this. I will share what we did and everything else. I can share it afterwards too. I just have to wait. There's rules when it comes to TV. You're not supposed to talk about stuff until the episode airs or whatever. I don't know. I signed all the paperwork. I just made the video. Unfortunately, by doing all that, between that video and then all the other little projects I've had to do, haven't much time for the YouTube thing. So. But on a fun note, YouTube introduced us to a couple local companies, and one of them in particular wants to talk about site. We did a project for them setting up some systems. They manage some very large buildings, and they're very tall buildings here in the Metro Detroit area, and we want to set up some site-to-sites on them. So that's going to be a fun project. It's to tie the building, because one company owns the buildings, they want to have a single network between them. So I'm sure, because they know me from YouTube, they probably wouldn't have a problem at all me filming the whole YouTube process with them. So that's going to be exciting. So we can document putting these site-to-sites up. Hopefully the job gets approved. I might be getting ahead of myself. But we're going to be looking at that one next week and doing some planning on there. I plan to do some more videos on planning and some of those things as well, because I know a lot of people have questions about it. I think some people overcomplicate it, or they run around looking for expensive software and planning and getting detail, and it kind of depends on the scale of things. If you're putting in to a smaller place, it's not that big of a deal. The outdoor ones, we've been using the UniFi planning tool to do these outdoor projects. We just installed, we're finishing it up, installing Wi-Fi in the harbor. that is going really well. It's one of those things. You popped a couple boxes on there, and they reach kind of as expected. The real Wi-Fi testing, I've never found any software that can figure out what's in a wall to a real degree of accuracy. It's all kind of estimates. And for example, the Wi-Fi job that I went and put together yesterday that's going to get delivered on Tuesday, which I think they'll let me film there too. I hope. It's one of those ones where I just took the Wi-Fi, set it somewhere. They have a current Wi-Fi system. I set the UniFi one up and just set it there. Boom. They had more range. They could see our UniFi one further than they could see the other ones that they had. It's sometimes that simple. There's not a lot more planning that was needed. Like, yeah, I think our Wi-Fi is better. I'm willing to prove it. We come out there, we just plug it in, hook it up, and they're like, wow, just sitting on a table, it reaches further than our mounted one. So we even moved it up towards being next to that one and still had better range on the UniFi compared to the one they had. So the UniFi system for that company is going in on Tuesday. So good news is there's a few more wiring projects that also will be able to film because there's going to be, if another deal closes on a building, they already talked to us about all the cabling, wiring, and infrastructure. So they want to move fast with it. They're waiting on paperwork for closing on a building, so that's exciting too. So I'm hoping there's more things going on there. And the other big project for the Family Fun Center, that one's going really well, and the delays are almost done, so next week we might finalize it, which is hopefully great because next week I'll be able to film, and I want to do a wrap-up video on the process. There's more footage that's been shot, but I didn't want to just do, hey, look, we pulled 2 more wires each time I went there. I want to actually have a concise video at the end. I'm also going to do some follow-up videos. I've been wanting to do these for a while because people have asked me, hey, how's that job going? I was looking at jobs, and I realized some of them we did all the way back in 2016, and they're still working fine, and they're outdoor, like, site-to-site UniFi jobs. And I want to show that 2 years of Michigan hot, which we had, we get all the way up in the upper 90s here. We were all the way in the below zero. So I want to actually show the temperature extremes over history and to show that these devices have survived temperature extremes and completely been working. So that's definitely on my to-do list to put that together. One nice thing is I'll probably get a little bit more done over the next few weeks because if you don't know this about me, and I've joked around, but this is in all seriousness, we actually I have to I take my kids to school each morning, and I pick them up each day at 2:30. That being said, obviously that cuts in the middle of my day all the time. So my day has like a split to it, not for lunch, but for getting the kids, early to school, and pick them up middle of the day. And my daughter will finally have her license and be able to drive her and my son to school. So that's exciting. I know it's very personal, but it's also exciting because cutting up the middle of my day because it takes an hour out of each day to the loop of getting the kids or more, depending on traffic and if I have to, if they need to stop by the store, I get them food. So, no, that's why I live here in Michigan because 90s is hot to me. I'm not if I had to pick somewhere to live, it may be California. I like milder temperatures. I don't like extreme heat, and I certainly don't like cold, and I hate precipitation. So actually I can deal with heat as long as there's no precipitation. So hey, Finland. I love when I hear people from overseas. Like, that's too cool because I haven't been there, so it becomes that much more intriguing to me to be like, oh, Finland or any European country because I have not left the continental U.S. Maybe I'm boring, but I virtually go everywhere. So clients using IPv6. No. Everyone asks me about IPv6. I don't plan to do videos on it. I don't really plan to do any videos on, really anything related to IPv6 unless there's some demand for it. I don't have clients using it. I know everyone says, well, can you solve this? I actually turn down anytime someone says, I have a pfSense IPv6 problem I need help with. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to take the time to set up. I'm not expert in it. So I do turn down jobs like that. I'm like, well, if I can't do the job, I'm going to skip it. So I'm always honest like that. That's why there's some evaluation about that. I actually solved someone's problem the other day. I don't know if they're on here. They emailed me, and as soon as I seen the error message, I'm like, oh, I know that was in the errata because I read through the errata of pfSense updates. That was the problem that was fixed with one of the updates. It's a minor problem, but it solved their problem. Proxmox. I played with it. I should probably look at Proxmox again. I just didn't like it. I don't really... I didn't find it as intuitive at all compared to, I got to type Proxmox right. I did not find Proxmox as intuitive as I do the entire Zen thing. But I do know I tested, I think, before they released this latest one. But one of my hangups was the import-export. And the import-export wasn't as smooth. Now, that matters a whole lot to me, being able to pop things in and out from virtual environments, because sometimes I lab things in VirtualBox and just move them over real quick. That being said, there's other ways to do it. You can use Clonezilla to move virtualization. You can use, what do you call it? Someone asked, what am I doing? Zentel video. You can use other tools to clone it, so... Yes, this is a cool product. I've actually listened to a podcast with the developers of this. I believe this is the one. It's pretty neat. I don't know. Training, quote request, free trial. No, this isn't the one then, because it's not the one I'm looking for. Is not. There's another one. It's not. I thought it was this one. There's a couple of these out there that are basically drop-in replacements for like a Linux small business server with all the features rolled in. There's one of them I have bookmarked that looks really cool. So that's, maybe sometime I'll do a review of that. When it comes to running data lines, do you quote per hour, per line, per supply? I quote 99% of the time it's per drop. Where those exceptions come in. Where the exceptions come in on a per drop is when it's a special project, weird drops, not normal drop, ceiling drops, or a large scale project. When it's a large scale project, because of the scale and scope you're doing at things, I'm talking like those projects that, exceed like even $50,000, $60,000 and there's hundreds of drops, because they're a little different. You may quote that a little bit different or you won't be competitive. When we're doing these little 10 drops in offices all day, then just go ahead and bid it, per drop, and away you go. That's way easier. You'll spend less time thinking, more time getting work done. So you kind of play the numbers game, and you lose a little. You're going to make more money on sub jobs and less on the other. So if you want to look at it from a business perspective, taking a step back, when you do a per drop job, you say, as long as you kind of look at the building, okay, average office building, offices are only so far apart. So as long as there's not any long runs, your average office building, you can have a set per drop rate per completely installed, wall fished, and plate mounted. Some of those are going to be closer to the demarc, so they're nice, and they want the demarc centralized. So, all right, no problem. Half of them are really short, half of them are a little bit longer, and there's a couple, offices out there. So you end up with this really average pricing that works out really well. And if they want to add a drop, because they already know your per drop rate, because you quoted in your price, this happens all the time. Easy upsell. They go, I wanted another drop over here. My wiring guys know how much it was quoted for the job. They say, no problem, it's one more, and they check the box. So that happens a lot, and it works out really, really well. So the only time there's some exceptions there is we had a company that wanted the per drop price. We quoted them. When we looked at it, they had a stupid way they wanted it done. And I say stupid because they had a giant warehouse. They wanted the demarc in the corner of the warehouse, and the offices are at the very front of the building. Every run was 300 feet at minimum. Right at the max, because that's how far away it is, and they thought that's where it should be. We talked them down off the cliff and brought the demarc in and just ran one line over to the, where it comes in, so the cable comes in. But so it's one of those things when you're doing that. So yeah, can I install XCP NG USB like ESX? Just download and install it. XCP NG. There's, I think they have a. I'm gonna do a getting started video with this when I have time, but go here, XCP NG, download. Next, yes, install, okay, boot, done. There you go. Would we team up with a client to get the job done? All the time. We team, because we've worked for a lot of other IT companies, we team up with them. It would be a good way to put it. We coordinated a big project with a kind of, I don't really call them competitors, but someone in our same space that does the same thing as we do, another IT company. We pulled the cables, and while we were pulling the cables and punching, their guys were programming the cameras that were going up, and we were mounting and pointing while they were programming the cameras. So we worked directly with other IT companies to get things done. That's common. Matter of fact, that's where a lot of our growth, because of the way we're niching down on YouTube, it has been from there's there's a whole, what do you call it? Whole bunch of people have contracted us that are IT companies that just contract us to do a specific niche in what they don't do. Like UniFi. We have another IT company, very competent. They just aren't as familiar with UniFi. They want us to do the setups, and they contract us for that work. We're perfectly fine with that. That's absolutely something we work with because they know how to plug it in. They know how to get it set up. They're not as in tune with the fine details. They're fine to hand off the fine details to us for setup. They call us for support if they need it, and then we hand off because day-to-day management and changing a password on UniFi, easy. Configuring, setting up, and planning a deployment, a little bit trickier. We do it a lot. They don't. They mostly just manage existing clients. So we absolutely team up with our IT people for that. I was wondering if there is a retaliation between you and whoever owned Bleeping Computers because you share the same name. Oh, relation. I read it as retaliation. Who owns? I never paid attention. Who owns Bleeping Computers? What's his name? There's no relation I'm aware of. So if you can throw me his name in here, as I don't know. I know I like the site. I don't really know who owns it, though. Finally managed to catch me, DK. Indonesia, been watching your channel for a while. Thanks for... Hey, awesome. Thanks. Hello from Indonesia. So let's see what else we got here. So I don't have a ton of time to cover it. One of the things I did pull up, and there's a reason this was pulled up at the beginning. This is the 6 years of counting inside a complex Zaccolino, I don't know how to say that, fraud network. Oh, Lawrence Abrams. My last name is Lawrence, and my first name is Tom. So, but Lawrence is a common first name, which is often shortened to Larry here in the U.S. So, no relation. Just similar name though. Let me pull up the downloads real quick here. I wanted to talk just briefly about this because it's so crazy. So this is the Bitdefender Labs. I tweeted this too, and you can read the details. But this has been one of my arguments for people, with spyware and computers and things like that. And this is a really deep dive, very technical. If you got the time to read through here, if you're interested in this, like I said, there's a link in the Twitter, but it's Bitdefender Labs. There's a bunch of other news organizations that reported on it, have their own spin and take on it. And I guess that's kind of what I'm doing here. But my takeaway from this level of rootkit, which is very impressive, and if you were going to design a rootkit, this is the way to do it. It's very, very quiet. It serves ads. It makes money for the people that installed it. And it's just really interesting because it's so in-depth and kept so under the radar that it managed to run for 6 years without getting caught. It survives a lot of antiviruses, just don't see it. Now, there's these people who go, hey, you should reload your computer, and there's other people say, oh, no, you can clean any virus. And I'm going to say, let me pull this person up because I disagree with them. So, allegedly, Ken Dwight here, and I got nothing personal at all against him at all. The virus doctor claims you can clean any computer. Just take his course, clean any computer. I got nothing against Ken. I think I may be friends with him on Facebook or whatever. I seen someone tagged him in the post because I posted this on Facebook, and someone tagged Ken in the post saying, what do you think, Ken? And he didn't reply. But this is one of my things where I know because of rootkits, and I've seen rootkits on Unix servers back in the day, or early days. I've went through training with this. I know very strong security professionals, and we're all the same mind. If a computer has been compromised, you reload it. You completely wipe and re-image the computer. The reason why is because rootkits, you can't find things once it's a rootkit because the tools literally will say something's not there even though it is. So yeah, exactly. This is, you can't clean everything because of the rootkits. So I don't know, Ronald. I'll just say real quick. I have no idea why it's not working. That you can only select a USB OS drive only as a storage. I've not had problems with those. I'm gonna leave it there. I don't know. I've installed it on a bunch of different computers, and I've never had an issue. I'm gonna do a video on it soon, but it's identical to my Citrix video. So here's. Now, malware, does malware byte scan for rootkits? Well, yes, But let's pull this. Hold on. Too many things open. Let's pull this up again. Let me find Malwarebytes, so I think it's one word in here. So, among the targeted anti-malware solutions are products developed by the following companies, blah, 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 blah. The rootkit finds them by file names or subject field in the certificates. Then anti-malware modules are prevented from starting. In case of infection, we recommend a system scan using Bitdefender rescue mode to remove the rootkit and adware. Now, that's a very important aspect. They recommend rescue mode. Rootkits, because they're loading at the root level, and this applies to both rootkits on Linux, which do exist, and rootkits on Windows machines. Because they load there, they load at the bottom level, they mask themselves. Now, what rescue mode is in Bitdefender, of course, this is written by Bitdefender, so they recommend their tool, but these are the targeted antiviruses that it hides from. And what they're doing is, they go through at the root level, they hide themselves, and they create masks. That mask says, oh, go ahead and scan with a rootkit. We're not there. They know when that scan comes through to flip the bit and say it's not here. Because this was an unknown rootkit, you can only, because we use a scanning system that scans for known, now you understand the problem. If we don't know what it is and we don't know where to look for it, and the rootkit is setting up a mask to answer the question of what's in this bytes, and it answers nothing. Root drivers, it's really hard to almost, for some people to kind of grasp this, and this is why me and Ken do not agree on this about formatting it. They mask and can lie to you. They can tell you a file's not there that is there. That's how rootkits work. That's why they're so dangerous. That's why the bootloader is supposed to be locked. But that's also, that's what this details out, how they got around the signing keys to load into the bootloader. Because you're supposed to have a keychain signed to stop things from loading in there to prevent this. Secure BIOS, they used forged certificates to get around the signed BIOS. So the rootkit was actually a signed piece of software. So yeah, I've read through this. It's an intriguing. It's like if I was going to sketch out how to do it, this is the way to do it. So yeah, it's not just simple as that. Now, good news is because they found ways around it. The news is broke, and they actually break down. And this is what's great about the way security researchers work. Let me jump to the details. They have the entirety of how it steps through, and what they're doing is exactly how to find it. They've documented, detailed it. So this is published to this level of detail, like including each of the file hashes used. This way the other companies can find it. They're not saying only Bitdefender can find it. They are publishing all the detailed data of this active virus, so the other antivirus companies can find these hashes, find these methods, and see how it works. So this is the way security researchers work properly when they're doing this. It is a very complicated problem, but it's also why I run into disagreements with people who say you can always clean them. If that machine has been infected, it's one of those things. Can rootkits get in UniFi systems or other routers? Yes. Very different, though. It works in a very different method. So UniFi and a lot of others, not just UniFi, are based on Linux. pfSense and several others on that side are based on BSD. Because they are based on BSD, you have to get at the operating system level. This is my argument for people who go, hey, Tom, can't you run a UniFi controller inside of a pfSense? I'm like, no, you have now greatly increased your threat surface on the border of your network. That's a horrible design. I want to do, because so many people ask me crazy questions or do crazy things like this, I really want to make sure that when your edge devices have the smallest amount of threat surface, that means keeping every port closed. This is where MikroTik how they got on the VPN filter list. My understanding is the earlier microticks, and this comes back to not just their problem, but tyranny of the default, where users will just use the default. They left some ports open. Those ports were the edge that people got in and started infecting them. So they weren't supposed to be open, or maybe people opened them. I'm not real clear on it because I'm not heavy use their devices. But that being said, that's the edge they got in. UniFi's have a default username and password, so there's an edge where they probably got in because a couple UniFi site-to-sites were found infected. Now, those are site-to-sites, not routers, that were on the VPN filter list that I talked about. My guess would be either default password or exposed to the internet, which, why is your site-to-site exposed to the internet? I don't understand. Like, you did something wrong to do that. They're a bridging device. They should be used to bridge. They should be used to bridge with their own management network and not connected directly to the internet. But I know people just set things up. I go into systems all the time. And the thumbnail for this is me pointing at a giant disaster that I was solving. It's not just the wiring disaster. Don't worry. Everything was done wrong. The wiring disaster is only part of what was done wrong. That's your physical layer of, I know this person doesn't know what they're doing. As soon as you get into the software layer, you frequently find admin ports open, default passwords, which is good. We took over IT for numerous times for failing IT people and found the default passwords. So routers can get infected. It's certainly a problem. VPN filter being the most popular one out there, but statistically likely, if you have it set up properly, you change the default password, you don't open any ports, you don't manage it remotely, you're not likely to get in. UniFi's had a great track record when it comes to security on there. Their CVEs were for cross-scripting, and they were kind of stupid ones. I think that stupid because of the way they were implemented, but I think people made a bigger deal about them. An example was, like opening RDP. One of the other things that they had done was they had a cross-scripting that they made a big deal about. Oh no, cross-scripting. Here's the method of attack. You had to have on one of the UniFi devices a non-admin user, and you could escalate the non-admin user to admin through a cross-scripting. Here's the problem. I don't usually create any non-admin users on my UniFi site-to-sites. I only have an admin user that has been changed from the default username and password, and then we use that, we put it on the management network, and we're done. That's it. Why would I create a non-admin unprivileged user for read-only? So it's an edge attack. It's not like, maybe people do, but you can kind of see how this becomes that's a whole different thing. Yeah, we want to do, me and Phil, who's been on this channel before, Phil's a security expert for all intents and purposes. So is Tony, who I do the podcast with. And we've talked about doing our beer and security talks and just sit down at the table and rant about, because we see so many things that don't make any sense. And all of us have worked on these projects. Phil especially, he can't disclose any of the companies he's worked for, but he has worked on some very large global-sized projects that were like, how does this even get to this point? Yeah, so there's a whole lot of fun in there. Unfortunately, I do have to cut this live stream because I have my next stop is at 8:30 and it's almost 8 a.m. So I got to go do the other stuff that I get paid to do. As much as I love YouTube, I've commented before, it doesn't pay a whole lot. So it's more a lot of fun, and it is a little bit where, kind of our monetization is when people contract us to do work and things like that. So definitely on there. Yeah, beer sec. We that's actually one of the names we talked about because when me and Phil were ranting about Microsoft buying GitHub, one of the things we had talked about was we were having beers while we were doing it, because we're like, look, this is a 2-beer talk just to get started, and then we had a few more beers, and then it was just fun. So I'm all for doing a whiskey talk as well. Same concept, but there's a lot of awesome. I'm glad I've helped people grow. On the small business growth, I am working with a person who's going to do some management coaching, and they may be on the YouTube channel. So there's a couple things that are coming up that's going to be a lot of fun. We're doing a website for someone, and I think that they are a really good management coach and has a lot of good business thoughts, which I'm much more technical and accidental business sometimes. But I want to bring them on, and they're going to be someone that does business consulting. So that's going to be kind of a fun talk. Also, if you don't know, look this up. We're going to be next week, and I'll pull his website up because he's so off the wall. Michael Lucas. Is this it? Please tell me I got the right Mike Luke. No, that is not. There we go. Yep, I'll pull up my GitHub real quick. Yeah, it's linked in the what you call it. Where GitHub. I can't drop it directly, but if you go, it's in the links, but if you go to github.flipsidecreations, that's my GitHub. I need to contribute more. That's on my to-do list. But next week, lost. All right. Next week, Michael's awesome. And if you haven't been to any of his talks or read any of his books, SSH Mastery, PAM Mastery, Advanced ZFS, this guy didn't just write the book on ZFS. He wrote 2 of them. And we've reviewed his Mastery on ZFS book on our podcast. Excuse me. We've read through some of these. He is just a lot of fun. He's also, besides writing all of this amazing stuff in these books, and we're going to be interviewing him. He's going to come hang out at our office. He lives like about half an hour away. I've presented. He runs the local BSD group, and I've gone there. He also, besides just all of his amazing sysadmin tools, operating system stuff, he writes fiction. And you're going to love this. We're going to talk about both. We're going to talk about his tech books, which are great, but he writes science fiction books, and he writes mystery books, and he's also a geek. Like, he's super technical. So you got to love the title, Get, Commit, Murder. You know, you guys should Get, Commit, Murder. I love that title. But he's got a bunch of other funny twists on it. He's very humorous. So he's also, like I said, we're going to have fun with him. It's going to be exciting. He's a fun person. His books are really reasonably priced, so you can go get on there. So you can grab some of his books or read through them. But if you're into any of the technical books, he has a really good way of writing that make them fun to read. From like some of the SSH, because he talks about managing things at SSH at scale and stuff like that. And everyone knows him in the industry, from like even the engineers over at IX Systems know him real well. They're like, Michael Lucas, you're having him on? Because they all have read his books, because he writes on ZFS, like he knows this stuff inside and out. Like I said, he didn't write the book on it. He wrote 2. That's kind of my joke with them. And he's a fun person. So he's going to be on next week, not on Vlog Thursday. We're actually just going to record a session with him and publish it. So you get some learning, talk about what the fun things Michael does is and why you should read his books. And from my own perspective, if you are really wanting a deep dive in a couple technical books, these are really good, like SSH Mastery and stuff like that. If you're really into SSH and managing Linux systems or BSD systems, like I said, when you type his name in, Michael Lucas Books, look at all the ones that come up. I mean, he's got so many books he's wrote. So lots of great stuff. Yeah, the standard Unix text editor. He's got a book on Unix text editing. And it's got a 5 out of 5 here on Goodreads. I'm not joking. The guy writes really good stuff. All right. I'm out of here. I got to run. I got to go do stuff and go do work things, fun stuff like that. So there won't be I won't post for a few days probably, because of the workload I have is not going to allow me to. If that changes, awesome. I just letting you guys a heads up. So you probably won't see anything else on the channel till Monday. Watch for me on Twitter. I still tweet and do all that fun stuff and try to interact with people and reply to lots of emails and fun stuff like that. All right, you guys have a wonderful day, and I'm going to get my day started.